So it looks like I'm at the start of a new project, or several projects, but this is the embryonic stage of everything, because I have 4 pieces of a tree that was cut down less than an hour ago. The crew was just leaving as they put the last piece on the front lawn of a house. This is red maple, and I should be able to make some nice stuff with it. So I'm going to shut the camera off and get this stuff inside and go immediately to the next step. This is what it looks like, saved from the fireplace. So I got the logs in the house. I set them up on my plywood work table. I have some newspaper underneath the logs, so because the paint, I'm going to use paint to seal the ends, and it drips and gets messy, and these things are weeping. So the paint is going to be runny because it's not going to dry like it would be if you were painting sheetrock or something else. And I also elevated it with some sticks, so it's up off the newspaper a little bit, and I vacuumed the ends. These are soaking wet. This tree was standing about 2 hours ago. Right as soon as it hit the lawn, the guys drove away. Another crew was going to pick up the lumber. I asked for permission to go on the property and take this, and I was given permission. In fact, I asked twice just to be sure. So I recommend that for anybody that takes lumber from the side of the road or from people's property if it was freshly cut. Ask for permission. Don't trespass. Respect people's property rights. Don't steal anything like this. Make sure it's okay to take it. But basically, this was just going to get thrown in a landfill or cut up and burned in fireplaces. It's red maple. The man told me it's red maple. He's sure of it. And I think it's got like a pinkish color to it. I've never used it before, but it should be fine. It's in the maple family. Most of it's clear. There's some character in it, but for the most part, the grain is tight and the grain is clear. And it looks like this is, I've been looking for something for over a year to cut. There really were no big pieces. The one really large piece was not ideal. These things are loaded with water. They're very heavy. If you're taking anything like this that's really freshly cut, protect yourself from injury by picking these things up. You'll give yourself a strain or something. They're very, very heavy. Very heavy. They're loaded with water. I want to stress that. So what I have on hand and what I've used before is an interior paint, which is good for, this was used for a bathroom. So it's semi-gloss. It's going to create a skin, which is the barrier to hold the water inside the log. The idea that you are working with when you seal the ends of a log is the log transfers water vertically through the trunk and through the branches, through in this direction. So what you want to do is you want to interfere. Even though it's not a living tree anymore, the easiest way for water to pass through this log, to escape and to dry, is through the ends. When you don't seal the ends, you'll have very rapid loss of water through the ends, and the ends will shrink and you'll get checking. So what you want to do is radically slow down, if not stop, the loss of water through the ends of the log and transfer it to the least efficient way that water can leave the log, which is through the perimeter. Then that way, the entire log will shrink evenly without checking and without loss at the ends. Now this log is maybe, let's say, 17 or 18 inches long. So if I have checking going back, let's say 4 inches from each end, I really only have the middle of the log that I can use. And that's not big enough for anything that I want to make. So for this 17-inch piece, I have to have virtually no checking from the ends. And the way to do that is to load it up with paint. Now, I'm not saying that that's the only thing you can use. You could do your research, find out whatever the best thing is available to you, and use it. I've used shellac, I've used varnish, I always have some paint on hand. I wouldn't use a flat paint or an eggshell or anything. I would use something that's more appropriate for a bathroom or for a kitchen, which is a semi-gloss, something that's going to have a really good skin on it. And then you could always put shellac or varnish or something on top of it. And I do multiple coats. So right now in this gallon can, there's about 20 or 25% remaining in it. I'm going to use the whole can, and I might even have to get some more. And I'm going to put multiple coats. Now, if you were dealing with a full can of paint, I would recommend transferring it to another can, because your brush is going to get contaminated, and then you're going to transfer it back into the paint can, and you're going to contaminate the entire gallon. So you don't want to do that, because this is going to pick up all the smudge and stuff that's still left on here, even though I vacuumed it. The other thing you want to do is, because this is loaded with water, I could see these are still weeping. There's water coming out of these logs as I speak. So what's going to happen is this paint is going to sag, and it's going to take a very long time to dry. So you want to protect the floor or whatever work surfaces, because you're going to have a runny mess with anything that's water-based or latex-based. So I'm not going to show you all 8 ends of the 4 logs, but I'll just do one log. You don't have to be real neat about it. It's not a big deal. The idea is to load this up. So I would do like a minimum of 4 or 5 coats. Minimum. You want a skin. You don't want just this to just come out white. You want to create a physical barrier that holds the water inside the log. Now, what's also going to happen is I keep my logs inside, and right now it's winter, so the heat's on, and what's going to happen is just the way things work is water will slowly be drawn out of these logs and just into the room, and then they'll slowly dry out. But I'm not going to put these outside. If you put these outside, I don't know what happens to them. It's probably going to just take longer for everything to happen. So that's pretty much it. So it's not like painting a wall. You can load this up. It's just that the more paint you put on the end of this log, the longer it's going to take to dry. And you'll see that over the course of the next couple of hours, this is just going to turn into a muddy, slushy, sloppy mess until it finally dries. And even then, water will accumulate right here at the bottom, because the entire face of this log is going to weep and drip down to the bottom. That's why I have the paper there. So that's the whole idea. Paint everything up multiple times. What's going to happen next, because these are inside, is the water loss is going to begin to happen around the perimeter of the log. The bark is not going to shrink, but the log that's within the bark will shrink. And as this piece of wood, this mass of wood contracts, it's going to release from the bark. And then what I'll do is I'll take a hand axe and I'll split it, and I'll create a seam, and then I'll get in there with the blade of the axe and peel it away. And I've taken all this bark off a log like this in one piece, because it just releases, and you just peel it like a banana. It'll come off like a banana. Sometimes it's a little harder, but with luck, it's real easy to release the bark. So the first step, get them inside. Now the other thing you want to do, this is ideal, and this is why I began filming this. This is a unique chance to begin a project where you're harvesting lumber from freshly cut trees. I'm going to emphasize this again. This was a tree that was standing less than 2 hours ago. The purpose of mentioning that is because the longer you wait to bring these inside and seal the ends, the more water loss you're going to have from the end, and the more shrinkage you're going to have to fight against. So at this point, 99.9% of the water that's in this log, that ever was in this log, is still in this log, and that's what you want. You don't want to take this log from the sidewalk, put it in your driveway, and then bring it in the house a week later and seal it. That's not the idea. The idea is to do it within minutes or hours of this tree coming down. And ideally, you want to harvest your lumber from living trees so that you don't have any defects that have accumulated inside the lumber while it was standing and it wasn't alive. Because if it wasn't alive today, then you don't know when it was alive. Was it alive 3 years ago, 10 years ago, etc., etc.? So I can tell you this tree was alive when it was cut. Anyway, that's it. So I'll probably film again in about a month when the bark starts to release from the log, and then film again later on in the stages. And then I'll also show everybody how I divide the logs into usable blanks and then stack those to dry. This is a very long process. This is extremely time consuming. I do everything by hand, and it's the only way I know how to do it, because I do it without spending any money. It's a lot of work and it's a lot of time, but I don't spend any money doing any of this. So to get a blank for a very large plane, I don't even begin to know where you would get that. A piece of lumber big enough to make, a jointed plane. This is the only way I know how. So if you're serious about plane making, for me anyway, this is part of the process that you have to learn and be comfortable with. And also, I guess I'm just stating the obvious, but it takes years after this point to be able to have the lumber usable. So I can't make anything with this lumber for another, let's say, 24 to 36 months. So in addition to all the time and work that's involved, there's planning, because this is about an investment in your future. If you want to make a plane out of this lumber, you got to be thinking way ahead. You got to manage the stock that you have, the incoming flow of raw lumber, how you dry it, how you date it, how you store it, etc., etc. It almost becomes more of a lifestyle issue than a skill issue of, hey, I think I want to make a plane, let me go grab a block of wood and just start working. It's really not like that. And that's why, again, I think that this is a very rare opportunity to see what it's like right at the beginning. So everybody, I'm going to close this one out right now. Stay strong, everybody. Stay happy, stay healthy, stay creative, because that's the key to happiness. Thank you so much.